Welcome back to A Good Pour. Today we have Daniel Stevens, the director of Feed Sumner. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you today?
Doing awesome. I'm excited about this. I love talking about the food bank. I love talking about nonprofits. It's totally different from what I was doing before. So anytime I get an opportunity to do something like this, it gets me excited.
You and I do not know each other well. You're actually one of the first guests that I don't know, that I haven't had routine conversation with.
Well, this will be great.
I
This
know.
will be
I'm
perfect.
so excited. Well, tell me how you got started with Feed Sumner. I want to hear a little bit about what you were doing before too, but how did you get involved with Feed Sumner?
So you want the long version or the short version? Because in the short version, it's just pretty much, hey, the only thing I can amount it to is God. God just kind of put this in my lap. I was not happy with what I was doing, the job I was doing at the time. I was going to First Baptist Church, Hendersonville, pretty incredible. I walk into Connect Group one day. My Connect Group leader after says, hey, I would like to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he said, would you be interested in working at the food bank? So First Baptist Church had just decided to take on the food bank. And I said, you've got to be kidding me, right?
Wow.
Because this is not the church that has this ministry. This food bank is not a small church. And so I obviously feel like I'm not equipped to do this. Why me? And I said, are you serious? And he looks at me, he said, yeah, absolutely. I think you'd be good at it. And I'm thinking, hold on, there's people with all this experience that have run warehouses before and all this. But what I learned through that is God is the one that equips us, not ourselves, not man. He's the one. And it just worked out. I went through the process of getting on. I'm technically on staff at the church, assigned to Feed Sumner. And so, it just happened just out of absolutely nowhere.
That's awesome. What were you doing before?
I was a police officer in Hendersonville for 11 years.
Wow.
Got out of there, retired after 11 years, right, as a corporal.
Okay.
So first line supervisor.
Well, thank you for your service in that role.
Thank you.
Big change. You've had to learn a lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, operations, inventory.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you've had to learn. How has God equipped you? Because there's been a lot to learn.
I think the way is just looking at things a little bit differently and being okay with not having the plan thought out, all figured out. I actually heard this the other day. If you know your what, you can figure out the how. And so I know what the what is, and the Lord's just kind of prepared me through law enforcement and the military, because you never know what's going to be thrown at you, to just kind of run with it. And a lot of it is see how it works out, because I've never run a food bank before. Our church has never operated a food bank. I don't know many people who operate a food bank and ministry. So they said, hey, we're going to take on this food bank. We're going to hit the ground running and just off to the races. And what was really good about that is my senior associate pastor pretty much said, hey, you go do your thing. You run the food bank, you get people fed, and you do the ministry. We'll be good to go. And so that's what we've been doing. And I think the biggest thing is just not ever knowing exactly what's going to be thrown at me. And that's helped me to adapt and kind of just move forward with the food bank.
So I love the name because it tells people exactly what we're trying to do, right? But tell me what do you do on a daily basis to make sure we're helping people that need food?
So the biggest thing we do is we obviously feed people, right? Because we are a food bank. We help people who are dealing with food insecurity. We do our monthly distribution, which is our big thing. When people come through the monthly distribution, they get a little bit more food than they normally would, but we also take people as drop-in. So a lot of times they'll call us and they'll come, they'll drop in, we'll give them food. But we also have some programs where we'll actually deliver the food to them. We have another ministry within First Baptist through the Benevolence Committee. So they'll call us and they'll say, hey, we have a need here. So either Alex or Alex being the other staff member at Feed Sumner, we'll load up the food, we'll load up the car and we'll go, or we'll assign a volunteer to go deliver those meals. And then also just partnering with the other agencies to help them as much as possible. We actually had a lady from the health department who had a client she was working with today and just called us and said, "Hey, do you have a food box?" Well, absolutely. Come by and we'll help you out. So.
Yeah. So God clearly equipped you. He put you in the right place at the right time to take on this work. You've learned a lot. You get to do good work. I love nonprofits. I have relationships with a lot of our nonprofit leaders. They get to do good work every day. How have you seen this ministry pour out into our community already?
So probably one of the story that sticks out to me the most, and I think it just shows the heart of Feed Sumner and the people of Feed Sumner and the type of culture that we want to create. One of our volunteers did a home delivery. And as she started speaking with this lady, and anytime we do a home delivery, we want to get to know the person, spend some time with them. We're in it for the long term, not the short term. We want to know our clients. And as she got to talking to her, she just started asking her different questions. And the lady said, "I've been a prisoner in my home for the last 6 months." And she said, "Well, why? Why do you feel that way?" And that's when the lady said, "Well, you see my car out there." She said, "I live month to month on Social Security. It's either get my car fixed or don't eat. And I choose to eat and just stay here. I don't have any family around, so I can't, it's hard to get rides." And the vehicle was the reason that she couldn't get to and from, and why she just stayed at the house and was a prisoner there. And so as this volunteer left, she just had it on her heart, like, we're going to get this car fixed no matter what. And she actually called around to some different mechanics, and they said, "Hey, we'll do the work for free.
Wow.
We'll do the work for free. We'll pick the car up and we'll do the work." And they said, "But you'll have to find somebody else to do the part." And she says, "Not a problem." She calls around, she finds somebody to donate the part. So they donate the part, they do the work, and not a week later, the lady had a car. Wow. And was able to go buy her groceries and get around and do everything that she was not able to do, weeks prior to that.
So one volunteer was able to go into a house, see a need, and then activate other members of our community to take care of that need.
Correct.
That's awesome.
Correct. And that's the big thing we want to do, is we want to be able to maximize things wherever we can. What is awesome about Gallatin and what's awesome about Sumner County is I truly believe their nonprofits are second to none.
Absolutely.
And I've never been in the nonprofit world prior to this, but it's not just one person that I continue hearing about the nonprofits working together in Sumner County. There have been several people that we have worked with in Davidson County that are like, "Oh, wow, like y'all actually work together." I'm like, why would we not work together in order to do that? We are better together. Absolutely. And that's another great thing, is we've been just planted in this perfect place with other nonprofits, so we can do the best we can to help those people in our community.
I hear this too all the time, just how well the nonprofit leaders here work together. I love what you said about maximizing things. I mean, you just see how the collaboration leads to being able to maximize and multiply the good work. Right. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. So a nonprofit is still a business, right? Yes. You still have to be in the black, like you can't be losing money, or otherwise you're not going to be in existence. So, but you also have a daily goal to do good. So how do you balance this good work with also just taking care of the business?
Like, I don't want to say that partnerships are kind of like the scapegoat, the answer, but we have to realize that as a nonprofit, it doesn't matter how big we are. We can't bear the burden of food insecurity for the whole county.
Yep.
As we started crunching the data and getting the numbers, 1 in 7 Middle Tennesseans are dealing with food insecurity. We'd estimate that that's probably around over 2,300, probably closer to 3,000, if not more. There's no way that we would be able to do that without other people coming alongside of us and being able to do that. And so we realize, first and foremost, we can't go outside our capacity. Yeah. So we limit our capacity to a certain point. And then at that point, what we try to do is that's when we really, really try to amp up the partnerships. And so if somebody, let's say thank goodness this hasn't happened, but let's say for whatever reason we run out of food the month because we've reached our capacity, that would be the point in time where we'd say, well, we have this food bank and this food bank, this food bank, this food bank here. But what's great about that, again, is I didn't realize this. There are food banks throughout Sumner County, and so it's pretty amazing that we're able to come together and do that. That's probably the biggest thing, is just not trying to outdo your capacity and realizing like it's okay to say, I'm sorry. Sometimes we don't have what the person needs, but I think the biggest thing that we try to do in those moments is point them to somebody that can help them with the need. So that's another thing that we try to do. We want to stick with food, because the more we stick with food, the better we're going to be able to do that one thing. But we also try to point people to other places too, because that's probably one of the biggest things I see. I don't want to say, I hate to call it a problem, because I know there are a lot of people that are out there. They're just wanting to help as much as possible. But I think sometimes growing too big and trying to do too many things can keep you from the growth and what you really need. And I say that from personal experience, because when I came into this, I was like, well, we can do this and we can do this and we can help with mental health and we can have this class and this class. And I learned about a year later, man, we're going to get spread way too thin, and we're not going to be able to give our guests the experience we need to. Like, we need to just focus on food. So one of the things I think that we could do is, if you focus on food, do food. If you focus on mental health, do mental health, and working through that, I think we're going to be able to kind of break into the barrier a little bit more.
There's something strong about staying in your lane, right? Like just doing what.
It's hard.
It is.
It's so hard for me to do.
Especially if you want to solve problems and you want to work to make things better.
And I think a lot of that boils down to empathy. You have to have, to me, you have to have empathy to be successful in the nonprofit world. At the point it becomes about just all about finances and not about the people anymore. I think it's time you should probably get out of the nonprofit world.
Good advice. So how can people get involved with Feed Sumner?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, obviously, yes, at the end of the day, it is a business. So financially, if they want to give financially, they can. If they want to donate food, we're open to that too. If you just simply want to tell somebody about Feed Sumner, we love that. We want to get our name out as much as possible. The more we can get that name out, the more we can help in the community. And the biggest thing of all is just pray. Pray for guidance for our volunteers. Pray for guidance for myself and Alex, because with two people running an organization that is really manned by just volunteers, if we don't have that direction, it could crumble very quickly, and that we just continue stewarding it well. Yeah.
You mentioned getting the name out, which I said before, I really like the name. I love the brand. You've done a great job. It has really grown a lot. The brand awareness has grown a lot over the last year. What do you feel like has helped you do that? I know that you're in just speaking about it, but is there anything that you feel like has really worked for you to help communicate this?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that truly help us is we actually have our communications team from the church that doesn't do everything, but they monitor a lot of what we do. And because we're a ministry of the church, right, what we do could reflect poorly on the church. So they kind of help drive the communication as far as the marketing and the brand. The communication teams is the one that came up with the logo. The communications team is the one that came up with the name. They're the ones that came up with the color scheme. And then where we fall in as far as Alex and I is pretty much social media, word of mouth, those kind of things to get the word out. And a lot of times, like our guests, like they'll post stuff on Facebook like, wow, you are so nice. Thank you for showering us with prayers. Just kind of a funny story. I was sitting in the lobby at the last distribution, and you have the people that register people that want to pray with people, and then you have the person on down that like puts them into the chute for the box to go in, and they pray with them. And then somebody has to pray with them, when they walk in the door, and then they walk into the community room, somebody asks them to pray with them. I'm like, holy cow, like we're going to start turning people away because they're getting bombarded with prayer. But then when I saw that, I realized, man, like people really appreciate that. Regardless whether they want prayer or not, they feel loved.
Right.
And to me, that's the most important thing, because even if you don't speak a word about Jesus, but you treat them with love and dignity and with respect, I think they'll truly see that. They'll try to figure out, well, where does that come from? Because I want whatever that is. Because these people come in, and I can just imagine they feel indignant having to do this. There's several people that'll call and be like, I hate having to do this. I wish I didn't have to do this. And we're just like, you know what? That's what we're here for. And every single one of us is 1 to 2 decisions away from us
Absolutely.
being that exact same spot. And I think that's another thing that we all have to realize. I mean, even another thing, you'll have volunteers, I hate to say this, but we're human, that will be like, hey, well, that person's driving this car and they've got this shirt on. I'm like, well, you don't know their circumstances. You don't know that that's a mom going through a divorce who's waiting for the repo man to take that car back. Right. And that her husband was the one that had all the money, and now she has nothing, and that's the reason she's in this food line right now, because she's got to take care of 5 other kids, with no help.
No idea what's going on with someone else's life. Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, as a leader of a business, what's one good thing that's helping you right now? So
it's really funny. There was a guy one time that's actually sitting over here. He said, your vibe affects your tribe. I think it's something like that. And
that's got to be John.
It's John. It's John. And I think it's so true, because if it was just me, like, it probably wouldn't be great. But the culture that you help create from your team is what keep people coming back. So whether it's on the guest side or the volunteer side, I think that's one of the biggest things. And again, empathy, and just the fact we have an absolutely incredible team that loves serving. Our church's mission statement is connecting every generation to God, others, and service. And so our mission statement is connecting all of Sumner County to that. And it's just amazing how most of the time you don't even have to tell the volunteers what to do. Yeah. They just do it because they see the need, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go fulfill that need. Yeah. It's really incredible, and I would love to attribute leadership to a certain thing or character trait or something like that. But I can't take that. It's got to be given to the volunteers for sure.
Great. Well, you get to pour into people in a lot of different ways. You get to help people, fulfill their need of hunger, right? Like, right. You get to pour into them in that way. You get to pour into volunteers. You get to pray over people. So just thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That you're pouring into all of these people, helping people feel full, both, just spiritually as well as actually filling their bellies. So thank you for everything you're doing.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us
today. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.